Bonjour, good morning, hello, guten Tag, Sambonani, what can I say? Hola. I am so happy to be with you today. I am Eva Arisani, and I will be your host for this new exciting episode of the Language Maven. And I will start with this. Writing a book is like waving the threads of your imagination into a tapestry of words. Each chapter is a new adventure, and every word is a brushstroke on the canvas of your story. I hope you are inspired because today it's such an because every episode is amazing, but this is another amazing, exciting episode. I have a wonderful guest with me, and I'm sure that, like me, when you were little, you thought of becoming an author, writing a story, sharing something deep and so precious with others, writing a story, singing a song. These are things that people want to do, right? Well, it doesn't have to stay a dream. It doesn't have to remain a dream. It doesn't have to be something far away, something you don't even think of accomplishing, because you can. You can. I have Krystal Hille with me. And before I introduce her to you, I would like to share a few things with you. First of all, this is Intuitive Living, and it's a practical guide for women who want to deeply trust themselves. I feel so honored because I worked with Krystal Hille and 24 other international thought leaders, including Dr. John DeMartini. That's right. And he was in The Secrets. you know? So I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be part of such a wonderful book, a wonderful project with so many people. And my experience with Krystal Hille and the other authors was just wonderful, out of this world. And I'm not just saying that because she is here and she can hear me and see me. It's because it is true. I feel wonderful. And it is a best-selling book on Amazon. Now, without further ado, let me introduce Krystal Hille. And before she comes, I would like to read her bio. Who is Krystal Hille? Krystal Hille is an independent publisher, a visibility and transformational visionary, and 11 times international #1 best-selling author, publisher, and speaker. Woo! We have a powerhouse. A powerhouse in the house. You see the pun there. With 30 years in leadership, a background in theater directing, tantric practices, and female empowerment, she's committed to raising the consciousness of the planet, one person, one story, and one book at a time. Purpose-driven entrepreneurs, speakers, coaches, consultants, and healers hire her to become international best-selling authors so they can gain global authority, make a bigger impact, and attract more clients within as little as 5 months' time. You heard me right. Since founding Hill House Publishing in early 2021, Krystal has helped over 200 authors from 28 countries to become international best-selling authors, and I am one of them. She has received book endorsements from Alan Cohen and attracted lead authors such as Dr. John DeMartini, Dr. Larry Farwell, and Lori Ladd. And now let me bring Krystal Hille to the stage. Hi, Krystal. Please unmute you are muted.
I am. My apologies. My
no problem.
Banging things in the background. I was saying thank you so much for this beautiful introduction. I could not put the smile off my face. It was so wonderful to hear you share. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And I only say the truth. You are wonderful. The work you do, it's amazing. Simply amazing. So please, let's dig this. Like, thank you so much for agreeing to come and be a guest on the show. And so the theme today is exciting. We're talking about the mysteries of book writing, and I would like to share so much with our audience. We have language enthusiasts, we have language lovers, we have aspiring authors, we have language students. So let's show them what we can do with language. And let's start with, please tell us about your passion for writing. Where does it come from?
You know, I feel like as a child, as a child, when I was 9 years old, I still have my first story that I wrote, and it was all about, nature and just for me, the passion is that it helps me make sense of my experiences. And I remember a quote of somebody, I can't remember his name, saying that when we write about our experiences, like we're reliving our life another time. So we first relive it, and then we relive it and re-experience it through writing. And what I find is in that process of writing, hindsights come, insights come, lessons can be deeper embodied and understood. So I really love that and that's why I call it the mystery of writing, because it connects us to our inner guidance, to our higher self, to our deepest truth, and can really unlock all of that and let it stream out when we're in that right frame of writing. There's automatic writing, which is, closely tapped into that when we really connect to who we are. And yeah, it brings more meaning. I think for me, writing gives me a deeper understanding of myself, of my environment, and that's why I love it.
Wow. Writing brings more meaning. I love that. I really love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And when you talked about that first book that you wrote, it reminded me of one that I wrote as well. I was a bit older. I think I was about 10, and I wrote a comic book called Le Chien de Pipo. Okay, it was in French. It's like Pipo's dog. So the dog's name was Pipo. No, sorry. What am I saying? Le Chien Pipo was the boy. So his name was Pipo, and then he has that dog, and I just told a story of an amazing friendship between that dog and that boy called Pipo, and how they helped each other and how they grew together and how the dog helped the boy overcome challenges because he was sick. And I worked with a good artist. So I wrote the text, and that artist, who is also a Gabonese, is called Libek. He drew all the pictures, and I entered the book into a contest, and we lost. But it made me feel so alive and excited that we produced that. And unfortunately, I lost it, but I wish I could have published it. But you see, I really agree with you. Like, writing brings you to a different dimension. It's like you are reaching out to something else, and you put yourself out there, and it's just amazing. And it also helps you develop your creative instincts. And I think there is so much power in creativity, in imagination, and in believing in that imagination, right?
Yes, and if we look at writing as a metaphor for life, when we're allowing ourselves to just let things flow and trust the process, trust what's coming through and coming out without judging it, then that hopefully can create more flow in life as well. And I do know that, some of the authors I've worked with who are very much in their head and they want to get it all perfect, they're the ones who are really struggling, and they're the ones who are taking forever because they never quite get into that flow where it just kind of streams through them. And so I think writing can almost train us and teach us how to do that in life as well.
Wonderful. Wow, it's amazing. And I love what you say. And we tend to really doubt ourselves, right? We train to override whatever comes. We train to challenge what comes naturally, and too often we miss the mark because we were too serious, if I can say that. Like we didn't believe in that natural, naive, creative power, that flow that can just be embodied, and that can take us somewhere else, which is a pity, because I think we would see much more, and dreams would not just be dreams. They would become
Exactly,
real.
exactly. And And it's that playfulness, when we can keep that childlike curiosity and that playfulness and apply that to our writing, then things can just flow through. But unfortunately, with schooling and having to meet certain expectations and criteria, we're judging ourselves so much that we feel like we have to live up to a certain standard and it's not good enough, and we have to follow all these rules and regular guidelines around good writing and not good, and we haven't made the correct connection. But what I actually find is when I allow myself to let go of all of that and just write without expectations, that there is an innate flow that has its own life almost in spite of me, that moves through. And when while I'm writing it, I'm thinking, oh, this doesn't make any sense. But I set myself a task to just keep writing, like just keep writing, without stopping, without expectations, without it having to make sense. And then when I look back at what I've written, I'm often really surprised at how cohesive it actually is. And yes, some things may need to be elaborated or some might be repeated, but there's what happens when we can write in a flow state is that our innate rhythm comes across as well. Metaphors suddenly appear, descriptions that we don't have access to if we're just writing from the mind.
Wow, you are inspiring me. People, I know this is not live, but when you watch this, I hope you feel as inspired as I am right now. So tell me, Krystal, I know that your mother tongue is German, right? But you live in an English-speaking country. You currently are living in Australia, isn't it? So tell me, how is that
Yes.
language influencing everything for you?
It was really interesting. What I find is German is a language that is the verb is at the end of the sentence, always, which means that if
Wow.
you have a complex sentence, the final verb that completes it all is at the end of the sentence. So if you have a sentence within a sentence, you just have to, in your mind, keep always in mind where you're going. And so that means the German people or the German culture is trained to kind of think, to hold complex ideas. And it's also a very specific language, like there are very specific words. Whereas in the English language, it's a much more meandering kind of language where you kind of finish something, but then you add something and you add something and you add something, and it can take you places. So what I find when I moved to England is that the people were not as regimented, not as rigid like the
Mhm.
Germans are. That there is more, there's a little bit more flow in the culture and the way of being as well. I don't know if you've noticed that as well, or if you find something similar with French and
Mhm.
English. But I found it fascinating how it's
No,
different.
it is. It is fascinating because I found that when you learn a language, when you speak a language, you also learn the culture, and there are so many differences. But in their differences, they also are linked together because um, there is something common, although they are different languages. But yes, definitely. And I love what you shared, because I know German is very different from English or French. I remember when I was in high school and we had a choice between Spanish and German. I went to attend the German class, and the teacher started saying Guten Tag, and then we all said Guten Tag, and then we were laughing. I don't remember why. I think maybe someone did something, and then she said, I do not want to see your teeth. And then I thought, she's too strict for me. I'm going for Spanish. So she lost me there. So you see, a word of warning to teachers: please make sure you keep your students. You don't make them run away from you. Because, I think that when you teach a language, you have to share the passion for the language. You have to make your student exciting about that. And I think it's the same. It's mostly the same thing with everything. With, for example, book writing. You as a publisher and as a writer, because you've written a lot of books as well, you need to find ways to help your the writers enjoy the process, trust them, and you give them tools, and you make sure that they don't feel lost or overwhelmed, and they learn to develop that writing instinct, right? And I can say that with confidence because you did this with me. I remember sometimes I was crying because of all the emotions and all the all those things I was feeling while I was in the process of writing, and it came with your coaching. So I really think that as a language practitioner, it doesn't matter if you are writing books, if you are teaching, it's very important to connect with your student and not make them run away, isn't it?
100%. Yes. Yeah, exactly. You pick them up where they're at. And, I think this is one of my strengths, having a coaching background as well, for transformation, that I can see where people are at, and I just intuitively know what they need in that moment. And also being aware of the journey and the process helps to give reassurance to a writer who kind of feels a little bit stuck or overwhelmed, or by the emotions, and saying, no, it's fine, that is part of the journey. And because you felt so deeply everything that you were re-experiencing, when people read your story and your chapter, they could feel you, and they were moved, and they might have, like, when I read it, it's like, oh my God, I was right there with you. And I wouldn't have been if you hadn't re-experienced and felt your story again. And I think that's a really important key for any writer. You don't need to be the most accomplished writer. You don't need to be a
Wow.
good writer to be a good author. You just have to have that passion for that. And it also, reminds me that you're probably I've developed the author archetypes, and you're probably a watery mystic, which is that archetype that very much connects with emotions and is deeply, deeply connected to the emotional world and their emotions. Whereas another archetype is the airy wizard. This is like the teacher. It's somebody who hides behind their identity, hides behind their role, and they're very good with concepts and explaining complex ideas, but they're not at all good at sharing a story and being vulnerable. So they lose their readers and the audience in that process, whereas you're capturing them by drawing them into your story. And then what not in your case, because you're a good writer, but then what sometimes
Thank
the
you.
watery mystic needs to learn is to then also make a point, a teaching point. Les Brown says, never share a story without a teaching that doesn't have a teaching point, and never share a teaching point without a story. So it's that beautiful balance to really to engage the reader wholeheartedly with mind, body, spirit, all of it, the full being.
Wow, amazing. Thank you, Krystal, for that. Now that we are already into book writing, what is the starting point to becoming an author?
I think it's a passion to share a message. That's the
I love
starting
that.
point. If there's something that really, where you feel like, I really need to share this, be that your own story because you've gone through something either so difficult and you've found a way to move through it, and you want to share your hindsights and your wisdom and your learnings with others so that they have an easier journey, or whether it is like this discovery you've made, this teaching point, this thing that you really just need, the world just needs to know, then that's something. Like for me, I'm currently writing about the author archetypes, and I feel like it's a really amazing tool. I've never heard anybody else talk about author archetypes, so I feel like if I can gift that out there, and it will help a lot of aspiring writers to make sense of where they're at and how they can improve and become a better writer. So that's, those are the two ways. Yeah, you have to be passionate about your message.
Wow, I love that. And it's so true, because I found that some people write just for the purpose of visibility, which I understand. I know that you can use books, to position yourself as an authority in your field. But I just think that doing that without having a story, without having that passion, without having that, that desire to share a story, then it will not have the same impact. So I agree with you entirely. I think it's
Absolutely. And I'm feeling, right, I need to get a book out there. I need more visibility. I need to give myself credibility, because the books I've written previously are not about publishing or writing. So I thought, no, I really need to get something out. So what is that? What is my unique messaging? So you can come from it from two places. You can also know, I really, my next step in my career, in my business, is that I need to get that visibility. I need to be seen as an expert in my field. So I need to write a book. And now I need to dig in and feel into, okay, what is my unique message that I can offer the world? And to bring those two together. But if you just have a theory, I was like, I'm just going to throw 30 pages out there, people will feel that, right?
Yes, no, definitely. And also, with so much out there, you have to bring in something different, something that will touch people, and something that will teach something, and something. So you need to have the right balance, and also to have the right team, because there is a power in being many more than just being one, isn't it?
There is, yeah. And I actually currently have an author, what is it called? A solo book incubator. It's a group program for aspiring authors, and it's a 6-month container, and they're all in there together. So there's a momentum that's being created through the community. Everybody's working on their own book, but we all come together. They learn from each other and from the feedback I give each author. And it's just so beautiful. Like, it creates momentum. And when we have community and accountability, it just helps us to keep going. So yeah, absolutely, we need community. And that's why I love these, I've got it right here as well, our book. I love these multi-author books, because it's almost like each book takes on its own identity, based on the people who are in it. And yeah, there's a few more in the series: Inspired Creators and Inspired Living as well, are in that series. So yeah, community is so powerful. And I think as a culture, we are moving more and more away from, may the best man win, may the best person win. It's now becoming about collaboration, lifting each other up and rising together. And that's where I love to play, in community.
That's amazing. What you just said is so true, because things have changed. And I think that one of the strongest qualities of human beings is adaptation. And I think that in terms of writing, we need to adapt and move from, before you had the author, which I understand was a way of doing things. But now it's more about, like you said, community work. It's more about collaboration. It's more about going in the same direction together and winning together. And I found that writing with you and all those authors gave me so much more than what I expected, and also it got me to be in the same book as Dr. John DeMartini. I mean, you see, if it was not for you, it wouldn't have happened. So That's the power of collaboration. And I was so excited. I remember the day when you told me that Dr. John DiMartini was part of this. I was like, are you kidding me? No, you're pulling my leg. Like, really? And I was like, wow, is it the same Dr. John DiMartini from The Secrets? And you said yes. And I was like, oh my God. So yes, when I heard that Dr. John DiMartini was part of it, I just thought, yes, yes.
That was such, yeah, I was just so
Yeah.
honored. And sometimes the stars align, and then it springboards into new opportunities and more magic, right? That was just, yeah, it was beautiful.
Right. And even the way we met and how, like it was just wonderful. You could see that, yes, it was meant to happen. So, yeah, fantastic. So now tell me more about the mysteries of book writing. We want to hear everything. We will not let you go without knowing everything we need. We will squeeze you as a lemon today.
For me, the reason why I said it's a mystery is because when we work with creativity, we're always collaborating with something bigger than ourselves. And that's why, often I hear authors that come into the books, they know exactly what they want to write. And then they start writing and they realize, and they go somewhere completely different and say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I needed to write about this instead of the thing that I had in my head. And that's why it's the mystery, it's the unknown. It's like if we are allowing ourselves to be open to receive the message and see ourselves as a vessel that it can come through as the mouthpiece of the divine, if we want to say that, that's where the real power lies. And that's when we're truly co-creating. And that's when we're creating and writing something deeply impactful and magical. And again, to get into that state of being is something that I train my authors in my books and my collaborations.
Wow, I
So
love
that's
that. It's wonderful. And I like the way mysteries, because I think that everyone well, most people dream of writing a book, but they don't dare, going for it. And, a lot of people think that you have to be a writer, like you have to maybe study and go a certain route, to write a book. So, what are, according to you, ways of becoming an author?
Yeah, you definitely don't need to have studied English literature like I have. That's what editors are there for. They make sure that whatever we're writing is written in a way that it's easily understandable by the readers, and it follows the grammatical rules and all of that. I feel it really is, yeah, that what I shared before is a conviction of your message. Be very clear on your core message, then be very clear on who your core audience is. So you know who you're speaking to. And I always say, just speak to that one person. Don't think about speaking to 1,000 people who are going to read your book. Just like we do when we're creating a business plan. Who's our ideal client? Who's your ideal reader? Speak to that person. Maybe even give them a name, so that your message doesn't get watered down or blurry because you're trying to address too many different people. And you will. And I often feel like people are a little bit resistant to that because they say, yeah, but I want to write to everyone, and my story is important for everyone. And then I say, look, people will still resonate with it, because there's still something there on either side of the spectrum. But but that person that really is your ideal reader, they will feel like you know them better than they know themselves, and that creates such a deep connection. So, core message, ideal client. There's something else that I was wanting to share, but it's gone. It'll come back.
Okay, no, definitely. And so there are different types of writings, isn't it? I personally, I think that I am more into writing life stories, like true life stories, things I experienced, and then they touch me so deeply that I feel that I have to learn whatever I learned from that life experience. But there are different types of writings, isn't it? Like you mentioned earlier, that it depends on what you want to share. It depends on if you found something, you discovered something. So you have quite an array of books that were published. What type of books did you publish? Like, were they all true life stories, or were there different types of stories?
Yeah, so they're all life stories. Like I haven't touched fiction, although I do employ elements of fiction writing in order to help my authors to really share their life stories in a very powerful and engaging way. So the books that I love publishing at Hill House Publishing are the ones that are transformational for the reader, are the ones that are going to empower the reader, leave them yeah, with more insights, with more inspiration, with more purpose maybe than they were before. And so the mission of Hill House Publishing is to elevate the consciousness on the planet, one person, one story, and one book at a time. So we're really having a much deeper, like it's a real movement, it's a real philosophy. And I love working with purpose-driven entrepreneurs who really are here to make a difference, to make the world a better place.
Wow, I love that. It's beautiful and it's really inspiring. I want to share that with everyone. Let's see. So, your mission is to elevate the consciousness of the planet, one person, one book at a time. It's
One person,
beautiful,
one
and I
story,
love
and
that.
one book at a time. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And tell me, what makes you different from any other publishers?
Can you ask me that question again?
Yes, I know it's quite. You have to sell yourself. So, what
And
makes
my
you
daughter
different?
came in telling me that she's going for a walk, and I'm like, I can't talk to you right now.
So, what
Hello.
makes you different from any other publisher?
I think like every person is unique, right? And when we can embrace our uniqueness and when we know our uniqueness, that's when something really clicks. And so for me, I feel what I bring into publishing is a very deep understanding of humanity, of what makes people tick. When I'm working with my VIP clients and I'm reflecting their story back to them, or I'm asking them questions that help them access deeper levels of their own story, that's what's a really beautiful and unique ability. Some people have said to me after meeting with me about their writing, they're so activated. They channel their book for like the whole night. So it's like I have this ability to activate people into their highest purpose and their message, and to really crystallize and clarify that for them. I think that's probably the main one, I would say.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. I think it is something unique. Not everyone has that ability, to do that. It's like not everyone has the ability to be a teacher, because to be a good, or not a teacher, but to be a good teacher, and it applies to every field. I think you need to have that ability to unlock that power in people, to really bring the best out of people in
Exactly. It's
whatever
like
you
that
do.
ability to empower them by having a deep understanding of where they're at and what they need. It's just that I think a lot of the feedback I'm getting is that when people get into overwhelm because the deadline is approaching and they haven't done it yet, like I'm just this calm presence, and I just say that's everything's okay. It's going to be, and just bringing them back to center. And I feel that's really, that's just another, it's like I'm I'm the doula for their stories, and I'm holding them in a sacred container where they can fully just be and embody their story, and then trust that all of the mechanics of book writing, the editing, the formatting is all taken care of.
Wow, amazing. Thank you. So tell me, have you ever had any of your books translated in a different language?
I have actually. So
Oh,
I wrote She Who Would Be Queen was a book that I kind of co-created with my ex-husband. And
mhm.
it was, so the story was there and it then got translated into German.
Wow. Hmm.
And yeah, that was a really interesting process.
And how did it go? What do you think are the implications of translating a book? What are the benefits of translating a book? What are the challenges as well?
I think the benefit is that your book then becomes available to a much bigger market, and those who have, if German people read it in English, they may miss the nuances and they may miss a lot of the content because their English understanding isn't so good. Whereas if they
Mhm.
can read it in their mother tongue, it will be able. I think there's a deeper understanding that they will receive from it. The
Mhm.
challenge is that those expressions. We have sayings in English there are no sayings at all in German for the very same thing. So you have to become really creative, I think, and this is your area of expertise, right? As a
Yes, right.
translator, it's like, how do we now take this expression and say it in a way that German people will understand it, because if we just translate the saying, it won't make any sense. And so that's one of the challenges I find. And so you really need an editor, or a translator rather, who understands the subject matter as well as is a good translator.
That's good. That's right. And also, don't you think that not all translators can do that? Because this is like a literary translation. So it means that
Yes.
you need to be a good translator, but you also need to be a writer because you have to understand what is the idea behind the word, and you have to really render the message in such a way that whoever is reading, they can capture what the author was trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah, you did. This is exactly what I was saying. You need to be creative enough to be able to find another metaphor or a completely different way of saying something. You can't literally translate it or it won't make sense. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the art, right? Like I wouldn't, and I think this is also why possibly translators specialize in certain areas of health or um, yeah, health,
Yes.
or you wouldn't get somebody
Mining or
translating. I wouldn't
finances.
get
Yeah.
yeah, finance. I wouldn't get a financial translator to translate my books, right? They
Yeah.
wouldn't understand.
Yes, that's true. I agree with you. Yeah, no, that's so true. Thank you for that. So tell us about your latest book. Because I saw, congratulations, by the way. I saw that once again, you are number one best-selling author. So well done.
Yes.
You and your team did extremely well. So what's the title of that latest book?
So the latest book that we published is called Healing the Wounds of the Past, a guide to
Wow.
authentic living. And that was created in collaboration with Authentic Living, which is a training organization in the US that's training healers and coaches. And so they brought together this group of coaches and healers that wanted to write this book or contribute to this book. And then I took them through the entire process. And this is something that I absolutely love. I love working with leaders of or heads of organizations who are looking to feature their community in a book. Because what that does is, firstly, they're providing a unique selling point in the marketplace for their clients and their members, by saying, well, you're having this opportunity when you're working with us or when you're studying or training with us to come into this book. And secondly, it elevates them in the marketplace because they suddenly have 20 people giving them basically a testimonial about what they've learned from that organization. Um,
Mm.
And it's just, I just enjoyed that book so much because, we surely need to heal the wounds of the past at this time of great transition. We certainly, if our wounds are still there, we see what happens in the world. We react. There's anger. There's catastrophic things are happening, all because the wounds of the past, each individual person hasn't healed them yet. So it's so important, that work that healers are doing and that we all do in terms of the personal development, that we heal the past.
That's, that's so beautiful. I remember when I saw the title of your latest book, I felt like I should have been part of it because I always talk about healing the wounds of the past. And I personally, because I experienced it, I think that if you want to transform your life, if you want to reach higher horizons, you first need to heal whatever wounds you have of the past, because even if you move on, but it will restrain you, it will still be there, and every time something will come and it will just touch that wound, and then that wound will constantly be open and reopen, and it will constantly hurt you, and it will dictate how you perceive the world, how you perceive your relationships, how you perceive things in general, and it will limit you in what you can achieve. So I think that it is a wonderful project. It's a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful thing that you did, and I'm sure that it will change a lot of lives. So congratulations once again
Thank you.
for
Yeah, that's
that book. And how many people co-authored the book?
That one had 15 authors in it.
Wow. Okay. No, that's fantastic. Yeah. That's fantastic. All right. We've come almost to the end of this exciting episode. I wish we could keep on talking about this because I have so many things I would like to discuss, but we are limited by time. So we have to unfortunately say goodbye. But before we say goodbye, do you have any advice for our audience?
There's a statistic that says that 81% of the US population, that is, wants to write a book someday. And only 3% actually finish a manuscript. And of those, and only 1% actually gets the book published. And so there's so much fear and so much hesitation around. So I will just say, if you feel like you have a book inside of you, reach out. I'd love to have a conversation. I'd love to see how I can hold you accountable, provide you with the tools that you need and the guidance and the help, so that you're not becoming one of those statistics, that only, it's only 3%. Let's get everybody into the 3%, because everybody's story matters. That's what I always say. People say to me, oh, but I haven't had the suicide. I haven't had the big thing. It doesn't matter. We need stories of everyday people. Everybody's story matters, because everybody is a unique puzzle piece of the whole. And who are we to hold it, to keep it just to ourselves? It's really time to share the messages of everyone, so that we all can rise and be empowered by each other.
Wow, that's so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We've come to the end of this episode of the Language Maven with Krystal Hille as my guest. And I would like to close this with one of my sayings. I always say that we all have a past, but how it influences our present and our future is up to us. So it is up to you to create that book that you've been holding inside of you for so long. It's up to you to become the author that you've always dreamed of. It's up to you to use the power of languages and to make something out of it. And we all have ideas, but they only remain ideas if we do not do anything about it. So it starts with an idea, then it becomes a plan, and then it becomes something real. So do yourself a favor and contact Krystal Hille if you're interested in becoming an author. And let's just grow together. Be part of the 3%, and let's
Exactly.
just
And what if it could be
enjoy
easy?
life.
What if it could be
I
easy,
know,
right?
I know.
Easy and
And
fun. That's when it all flows through. And when we stop being like your German teacher and just show our teeth and be happy and smiling, and it just can flow through us, and it can be easy. And with the right support,
exactly.
anything is possible.
I believe so too. So thank you so much for watching us. If you want to be a part of the show, or if you want to uh, know more about something, if you have a topic you would like us to discuss, please contact us, send us an email. I'm going to share the email just now. director@transcentral.co.za. God bless you and enjoy your day. See you next time. Thank you, Krystal, for accepting to be a guest today. Thank you for gracing the show with your presence. It was a fantastic moment. I mean it.
Thank you
And
so
all the
much
best
for
for your
having me.
future endeavors. Keep well. Bye,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.